Okay, welcome to the bonus and the easy guide to better finances. Now, this bonus deals with individuals and families that have a fluctuating income. However, the bonus will mainly center on a fluctuating income when one has a small business. The business is small, meaning that it's either a one-man show up to 3 employees. Therefore, the business is either a sector share or a sector. And we're going to talk about the life cycle of the business so that you can recognize which stage you're in and what the business requires you to do. The tools then on how the household works with a business, with a fluctuating income, and how the household and the business should work in unison. Now, following these guidelines can make the difference between failure and success in your business. So let's get started. But first of all, I'd like to explain a little bit about my activities as a family financial advisor. Now, a lot of people are under the delusion that as a family financial advisor, all I do is help families become debt-free and financially stable. Well, that's not surprising, since 54% of the population over the age of 20 are currently in permanent overdraft, which is unbelievable. There is no reason nowadays why anybody should be in perpetual overdraft. However, I actually deal with 4 major areas. The first being budgeting and planning one's money. In fact, 100% of my clients that start working with me fall into this category. Not planning one's money or working with a financial budget means that money is being frittered away without you being aware of it. And financial decision making is not accurate. The aim here is to make your money more efficient. Now, the next area is when there is a change in one's financial status. When one makes aliyah, that's an enormous change in one's financial status. However, there are other instances where there's a change. For example, one gets married. But a lot of people say to me, hey, Susie, that's an improvement in the financial status. One goes from a single income to a double income. But is it? If there is no financial dialogue created between the couple, then it's not surprising that 70% of divorces are due to financial stress. Other instances where there's a change in one's financial situation, we buy a house, we have a child, we have another child, so we want to buy a bigger house. We're made redundant from work, which unfortunately nowadays is a common occurrence. Or unable to work, due to an accident or an illness. We get divorced, some of us. When we retire and when our spouse or partner passes away. Now, all these situations dictate that we make revisions to our budget and spending habits, because we carry on as if nothing has changed, then the financial deterioration of the family is imminent. So let's illustrate an example of a change in the financial status. For instance, when somebody's been made redundant, as mentioned, it's a common occurrence nowadays. When a person has been fired, and it doesn't matter for what reason, there is a psychological process that the person needs to go through and makes it very difficult for them to say no to one's partner, children, family, or friends. And one wants to pretend that everything's okay when it isn't. So the role of the family financial advisor, like myself, is that I'm not emotionally involved in the situation, and therefore I'm able to help the family prioritize expenses and remain financially stable and not get thrown into the spiral of debt. However, in this lecture, we're going to deal with the change in the financial status one sets up and starts a business. Okay, the next area is when there is a financial dilemma, and I'd like to illustrate it by bringing a case study here. I've just finished working with a young mother who was recently divorced and has 2 children. She found a home that she wanted to buy, and the meeting was twofold. So she wanted to know whether she was managing her expenses properly. Actually, she wasn't, so we made her money more efficient by streamlining a couple of budgeting clauses. And then we had to decide on the mortgage amount. Now, the time span that she wanted was actually 20 years. But I recommended, due to the fact that her children were still small, that 25 years was a better option to avoid any financial stress. Now, the best thing about mortgages is you can always refinance them. And this is just one of the advantages of working with a family financial advisor. Now, the last area that I deal with is that I actually specialize in it, a fluctuating income. Let's look at an example of when one receives fluctuating income. There are people who receive an income from abroad and therefore they are exposed to the fluctuating rate of exchange. But it's not as drastic as, for example, a salesperson whose salary is based on commission. Therefore, they go away for 2 weeks with their family in the summer, they will not receive their full salary and a month of heavy expenses. So budgeting here is imperative to maintain financial stability. And then we have seasonal workers. In the summer, we have tour operators, tour guides, the wedding season. We also have people who work in agriculture. And what defines these workers is they work very intensively for 6 months of the year. And for 6 months, they lie in bed and say, oh, what are we going to do today? Budgeting here to make sure that the money lasts the whole year round is vital for financial stability. And then we have the last group, which is very close to my heart, right? Because I'm one of them. People with small businesses, and it's very difficult to forecast how much they will earn this month or next month or 6 months down the lane. Therefore, learning how to prioritize expenses is important to achieve and maintain financial stability. And now we're going to talk about this subject in depth. Okay, so the lecture today is actually a part of a lecture that I gave at a Translators Conference earlier this year, and it's based on a workshop I co-hosted with Joran Fishman, a business financial advisor. And the theme of the lecture was "Shachachtem lekachat et habayit b'cheshbon, ze mamash lo esek." And the translation in English could be, "There's no business if you didn't take the household into account." Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we're going to start by looking at some of the statistics in Israel for small businesses, or any business actually. 80% of businesses will not survive the first year, and this is due to a number of reasons, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Okay, but if you do survive the first year, 30% of businesses will close within 5 years. 28% will continue to live up to 20 years, and 21% will continue to survive more than 20 years. So just to illustrate this, here's a great graph that I found in Glows, which is the Israeli financial newspaper. And we see the variable amount of businesses that opened since 2009. Now, what's very noticeable nowadays is the increasing amount of businesses that close. So much so, in 2017, the amount of businesses that opened and closed were nearly the same if you compare it to 2009. It'd be very interesting to hear the statistics for 2018. Now, what is very thought-provoking here is that 48% of all businesses that were closed were in fact profitable. So why did they close? From the research that Joran and I conducted, we find that one of the main reasons for the business closing were, one, no business plan, bad management, or two, the owner had no idea how to manage a business, or three, they were not profitable, or four, the market research was not accurate, or five, the product was either too cheap or expensive, or the business didn't know. I think the last one is number 6. The business did not generate an adequate income for the household. So today we're going to learn how to handle the household finances at each stage of the business so we avoid the situation that we have to close the business. So we're going to now look at the life cycle of the business. I'm not a business advisor, but I felt that it was very important to know the business side before we deal with the household aspects of dealing with the fluctuating income in a business. Okay, so we start off with the birth, which is when we have our vision. We have a business idea. And then we go on to the toddler stage, where we actually launch our business and we hope it will work. And then the next stage is the kid stage. Here, the fun begins because our business is starting to work. And then the teenage stage. Yeah! The business is generating an income and we want to behave like adults. We're not quite there yet. And then the adult stage, which after the teenage stage means that the business is now becoming stable. We arrive at middle age, a stage that we all aspire to reach. The business is generating a profit. We might have people working in the business or might have people running the business. Well, we've got there. Yeah, good feeling. However, the problem with middle age is that it's usually a middle age crisis. What do I mean? We might get bored. We might be fed up running a business or frustrated with the challenges of the business and start to neglect it. We might not have developed new products, programs, service, or we didn't invest enough in marketing, which is another problem. Because we don't deal with the crisis, then the business slides into the pensionable age. And then this is when the business starts to dwindle. Again, if you don't make sure that the business is given a new lease of life, then it becomes geriatric and eventually die. When we're at the middle-age crisis stage, we should actually go back to the teenage stage or the adult stage and reinvest in the business. We see all the time the let me just say that again. The big brands like Coca-Cola, Superfar, Mazda, that is spending an enormous amount on advertising, marketing, and developing new products to stay on top of the pyramid. So what I'd like to do now is take the first 4 stages, since these stages are where most of my businesses that I work with are situated and where people make the most financial mistakes. Okay, so let's get started. Whoops, I nearly forgot. The household requires a salary, a fixed amount on a fixed day. Actually, I didn't forget this slide, as you probably understand, but one of the main reasons why businesses close is they omitted to take the household requirements into consideration. So if you follow the steps for each stage, you will be able to survive the first year and succeed in your business. Okay, so let's look at the first stage, which is the birth, where we have our business idea, our vision of opening up a business. The natural step afterwards is to write a business plan. What? You haven't written a business plan? You just want to go out there and see whether you can succeed or not? Good idea. This is exactly what I did. However, I was really lucky because I was working full time as well. I launched my business. I wanted to see whether I could attract clients, whether I was able to help families achieve financial stability. I tried out numerous techniques and perfected them. And all of this while I was receiving a regular salary. However, at the end of 2013, my business changed from a secondary one to a primary one. But I'll tell you later how important writing a business plan was for me. If this is your scenario where you can work full-time but start your business, then go for it. But it's not this case. You have to write a business plan. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a drawn-out affair for investors or for the bank. It can just be bullet points, but because the moment you have your vision on writing, it's more likely to succeed. Now, there are many reasons why people decide to open up their own businesses. For some people, it's due to their vulnerability as an employee, because there is no loyalty whatsoever in the workforce, or they are 50 plus, and the statistics show that 1 in 400 men will find suitable employment. And for women, the statistics are even worse. It's 1 in 600. And they're very tempted to open up their businesses instead of trying to find suitable employment. So what are the changes from being employed to being self-employed? Well, first of all, the biggest change, and I think it's actually a psychological change, especially at the beginning, is that we do not receive a salary on a regular basis. And that is an enormous change for the person and the household. The second is that nobody's telling us to get out of bed and go to work, and therefore we really have to be disciplined in our work ethics. And the third is that no, we don't have a boss breathing down our necks, and therefore we need to set up our own deadlines. And the last part I'd like to mention, the fourth one, and it's really important, is that when we are working in a company, we normally have staff meetings, or we have people we can bounce ideas off or do brainstorming in. When one is self-employed, there are no staff meetings, and that can be a pretty lonely place. Now, these 4 points have to be recognized and dealt with in order to succeed in the business. Also, at this stage, we have to decide where we want to work. I personally have a home office, but my solution is that when I meet clients, I often rent out office space. Some people say that it's not a good idea for them to sit at home because they don't have the work ethics, or there's no quiet place, or there's no place to have an office. People will then rent an office. Some people might have to build an office, for example, if they're going to be opening up a lawyer's office, but it's more popular nowadays to sublet, like in WeWork. However, if you're going to be opening up a restaurant, you have to find a good location and renovate the place accordingly. Okay, we also have to choose a bank that we like, and we have to create a relationship with the bank, because a bank needs to be our friend. Because when we're in need, we need a friend and not an enemy, and they can be a real enemy. Also, at this stage, we need to invest money in marketing, business cards, website, branding, and so on. So again, we have to ensure that the household at this stage receives a salary, a fixed amount on a fixed day. And this has to be included when writing a business plan. If you forget to include the household in the business plan, you're more likely to be one of the 80% of businesses that close during the first year. But at the end of the first year, what will you see? You'll see the business will have this, and so will the household. And it's a situation you definitely want to avoid. Okay, so let's go on to the toddler stage. This stage is usually a one-man show unless you have a business partner, and sometimes businesses go out with a big bang already has employees, as mentioned, for example, a restaurant. It's a one-man show, and we actually work in our business 24/6. Isn't it great that we're living in Islam? We don't work on Shabbat. In fact, all the literature I have read on how to create a successful business, they all say they have to take time out. You can work in the business 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Otherwise, you're going to get burnt out. It's a situation that, again, it's not recommended to get burnt out at this stage. Okay. Now, we always have to be working in the business. That is why it's called the toddler stage. Because if we leave a toddler for a day or two, or maybe in a couple of hours when they're awake, a toddler cannot fend for themselves. And there are terrible consequences if we do. You have to supervise the toddler. You have to supervise the business all the time. We need to launch the business. We have to make sure that we are attracting clients and that your products and services are working. You need to have your finger on the pulse. Otherwise, the business will not survive this critical time. Now, even though we have written our business plan, we have to make sure that our services, programs, products are marketable and are going according to the plan. Also, at this stage of the game, we have to be experts in everything, not only what we do, but everything else in running a business. For example, from management to bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, selling, branding. I have no idea about accounting personally, and I'm not going to study accountancy, therefore I work with an accountant. Or, for example, internet marketing. I know there's lots of courses how to market yourself well on the internet, but I'm not going to go and do it because I'm going to pay somebody to do my marketing for me because it saves me time and money. You need to do your own calculation. However, there are great organizations that will help you promote and grow your business. They also offer you courses, they have mentors, and they don't cost an arm and a leg. For example, Matti or Ma'of. If you read about successful businesses and you read about successful business people, you will discover that all of them, all the time, either have a coach, they have a mentor, or they're constantly studying. Now, take into account that the business in the birth and toddler stage requires substantial financing. And this is when the business requires the most finances. What do I mean that the business requires finances? Let's look at some example what I mean. First of all, you might open your business as a sector where you don't charge your clients VAT and you don't have to pay VAT or income tax like a Osek Moshe. Okay. Now, most people who start the business usually start as Osek Ptor. Okay. There are some businesses that are required by law to be on Osek Moshe, such as the lawyers and accountants. Now, I quite agree with the concept of seeing how the business takes off. Okay. However, the psychological side of starting your business as an Osek Moshe is immense because it immediately pushes you up a league. And it's also how potential customers and suppliers look upon whether you're successful or not. Now, the average income for a sector is about 5,000 shekels. And don't think that this income is immediately transferred to the household. No, it isn't. Because you have to pay Bitur Hlumi, your marketing, your rent, electricity, transport, and all expenses pertaining to the office and the business. And of course, they're counted. Get yourself a good accountant. Just don't work with your brother's friend who happens to be an accountant and gives you a discount. No, you got to ask for referrals. You have to interview them because they can literally make or break the business. Believe you me, on many occasions, I have to clean up the mess of a bad accountant for the household. Now, when you're choosing an accountant and you're a small business, make sure that they specialize in small businesses. I also recommend that you make sure that you're paying into your pension fund, which is from 2017. It's compulsory by law. Also, make sure that the pension fund at the end of days will have enough for you to give you a decent pension so you can retire. Since the reason why you're working is not only to make money and pay for the household expenses, but it's also to ensure that there'll be money for your golden age. Let's go on to the next stage. As again, the household requires a salary, a fixed amount, and a fixed day. If there's one message that I want you to take from this lecture, it's this message. If the household receives an income on a regular day, and it's a fixed amount, it won't be under stress. And we know when the silent partner is silent, then we can grow the business properly. If the house is under stress, so will the business be. And one then makes bad business decisions so we can just generate an income. And these decisions we make is not necessarily good for the business. So be aware of this situation. Okay, so now we have reached the kids stage. The business needs to be managed and monitored, but it's not really a good time to go out and play like kids do. Because a lot of people say that they want to start their own businesses because they want to spend quality time with their family. Now, this is a really good idea and reason for starting one's business. And this is not the time to go and play, since we still have to work really hard to make sure that the business is attracting customers and the products, programs, and services are working. Okay, at this stage, we know what is working. We have written our business plan and developed our products, services, and we will find out, for example, let's go back to translators, because it was a translators lecture, that we're really good at translating legal text and not so good at agricultural text. Or that we're really good at technical translating and don't enjoy doing historical translating. At this stage, we definitely know our strengths and weaknesses, and I think also our techniques, what works and what doesn't work. Not only that, we also begin to recognize our clientele. Since at the toddler stage, we work with anybody and everybody who's prepared to pay us. Okay, but at the kids stage, we begin to differentiate who are VIP clients, who are good clients, and who are normal clients, and clients that we don't want to work with. So the clients you don't want to work with, don't work with them because they will take out too much energy. You're not happy, neither will they be. Also, please take into account that the business might be generating revenue, but there is no profit from the business. The formula is that you invest 2 years in the business, 2 years it takes until you break even, and only from the 4th year do you see a profit. Of course, there are exceptions to the rules on both sides of the spectrum. Also, at this stage, it's important to update the business plan. And why is it important to update the business plan? As mentioned, we have a very clear idea of who we want to work with and what is working. Now, in 2013, I changed my business from a secondary one to a primary one, and I was very lucky that my business was chosen to be mentored by the IDC in Herzliya. For the extensive market research that we conducted together with the students, we decided that I should change my focus from the Israeli market to the Anglo-Saxon market living in Israel. The reason being is that there's not enough family financial advisors in Israel that spoke English and Hebrew fluently like myself. And this made an enormous impact on my business. And this was all due to writing the business plan. Okay, let's carry on. Again, the household requires a salary, a fixed amount on a fixed day. Now, why am I driving you crazy about this? I encounter so many families that have a small business, but their household is in debt. And one of the main reasons is that the business did not transfer any money because they said, oh, there was no money to transfer. Now, this is not acceptable. Just as it wouldn't be acceptable if you were employed and your boss came in one day and say, I'm sorry, I know you're working really hard, really pleased with the performance, but there's no money to pay for your salary. Now, how would you feel? Actually, this would never happen because your boss, first of all, has calculated the fact that he has to pay wages. And secondly, if they don't do it, it's against the law. And the same should be for your business. Then we reach the teenage stage. Now, even though they might look like adults, they might be able to drive, but they're not ready to leave home yet. And the same applies with the business. Why do you think they are like adults? It's because business is generating income on a regular basis, and it doesn't need such substantial financing or supervision, say, at the toddler age. There is a work system implemented. One normally knows how long a job will take to do. For example, let's go back to translators, how long it takes to translate a page or to do a job. Okay, here we know what market segment we should be focusing our marketing efforts on. As mentioned, I'm focusing all my marketing efforts on the Anglo-Saxon market and the international market. We also know what we're really good at. Now, at this stage, there's still quite a lot of hit and misses. What do I mean by that? We're at a teenage stage and we want to make the big bucks like the adults and middle age and get there as quickly as possible. Therefore, we throw up into the air lots of projects and hope we'll be able to catch all of them. But we don't. You might catch a few, and if you're lucky, you will catch one. I remember a long time ago, I launched a big marketing campaign for morning seminar. I had people sign up. I received new clients. It was great, but it wasn't enough to cover my expenses, which really made me think my marketing strategy. So at this stage, it's imperative that you work with a marketing or business advisor. Again, all the literature that I have read about creating a successful business is that you cannot do it alone. Okay? You don't necessarily have to pay a professional. I, in 2014, created a forum of family financial advisors. We're only 4. We met once or twice a month where we brainstormed, we updated each other's on activities, we learned new techniques, and it's been really invaluable to my business. I still meet with them. It's given me a lot of confidence as a family financial advisor. So I do recommend creating a forum, a professional forum like that. Now, just because the business is generating income, we really cannot neglect our marketing efforts. Almost half our time is spent on just that, marketing, whether it's through the internet or networking. Actually, most people that I speak to have small businesses. They say that their formula is 80% in marketing, 20% is working in the business. So this is a short summary of what the 4 stages of setting up your business requires. And now what I'm going to do is going to discuss how the household has to act as a silent partner in the business in each stage that we've just discussed, so the business can succeed, and of course vice versa. But before I continue, this is the last time I promise you, the household requires a salary, a fixed amount on a fixed day. This is vital for the success of your business. Remember that this is the golden rule. Okay, so it's very clear that the household and the business are in fact partners. The difference being is that the household is in fact a silent partner. However, every now and then the household needs to have their voice heard, and the business also requires the input. And I do agree that the household should be breathing down your neck, just like your boss, because it can definitely contribute to the success of your business. As mentioned, this lecture is designed for small business, and what defines them is not necessarily their turnover, but they are a one-man show, and they employ up to 3 people. Bigger than that, it's a different ballgame. And we're going to talk just about the 4 stages, since, as mentioned, is where most people make financial mistakes and the business and the household, and is where most of my clients are situated. So let's look at the household and your business and how they should work together at each stage of the business. Now, the birth stage. So we have a business vision. We want to open up a business and we start planning the business. The first task that needs to be done is, in fact, to build a family budget or assess the family's monthly expenses. And this is done by taking the last 3 months of bank and credit card statements, and then you transfer all the information on the budget as if you've done in lesson 1 in the course. Now we write our business plan. Statistics have shown the importance of a business plan, and that a large majority of businesses close during the first year due to the lack of a business plan. It's an essential accessory to your business. And we have to check the business plan and the projected income for the business and whether it's compatible with the preliminary budget that we just prepared. What do I mean by compatible? Can the business generate the required income for the household? Your silent partner, for example, if the business can only generate 5,000 shekels when the household needs 10,000 shekels, you have to think seriously whether you want to open up the business. But what happens if the answer is no? My suggestion is don't open up the business. Otherwise, you'll find that the business and the household is in debt. Now, if the business could generate an income, but it would take some time, there are some options to avoid getting yourselves into debt. Okay, again, this is for small one-man businesses, and they're just recommendations. The first one I do recommend, if it's applicable, is to take out a loan. Get a business loan. There are great business loans around with a small rate of interest. Or we can go back to my story. When I first started my business, I was working full-time, and therefore I could rely on my regular income. This meant that the learning curve for the business was financed by yourself. I can honestly say, if I didn't have that grace, that 6-7 years I was doing it part-time, I don't think I would have been able to succeed, because it just gave me that time to find my niche, to find my techniques. Now, if you can work at 2 jobs and wait for your business to take off, then I highly suggest this option. Now, if you understand that business will not generate any income at the beginning, or not enough income to finance the business and provide the household with the income, and you don't want to take out a loan, that's also a possibility, then find another job. Now, here I would suggest that you find a menial job, or a job that requires shift work, or a job that's easy to walk in and out of. I am aware that means that your business might take longer, but at least you'll have a regular income that you can rely on. The decision will be yours at the end of the day. And again, if the business plans indicate the business will not generate enough income, we still have 2 options. The first being, and I quite agree, you can adjust your business plan and your marketing plan accordingly. But here I have to stress, if the business numbers still do not tally with the amount that a household requires, then please think about opening up your business. Okay, so we go on to the toddler stage. The birth and toddler stage is where the business requires substantial funding. Now, here Yoram and I were in total disagreement. He preferred that we only use personal capital, and I preferred to receive a loan for starting the business. He said no. I said yeah. We had quite a heated argument, as you can imagine. It goes like this. If you're going to use your own capital and take it from a short-term savings scheme, for example, a bar mitzvah, and your son is already 11, it's not advisable to do that, since we know the average business will not have generated enough income to cover their bar mitzvah expenses, and therefore the family will have to take out a loan. The difference between a loan and a business loan is that the family loan, the interest rate would have been higher. However, if you see pitzwim from work, or you have to carnish the mut, just sitting around, then I highly agree to use this than rather take out a loan. So to summarize, use personal capital from money that does not have a label on it in the near future. However, if your business goes into a slump and needs an influx of cash, you can calculate whether the household, whether it's what's better to do, take out a loan or to use more personal capital, but the household has to be involved in this decision. Though, if you do use your own capital, you need to do something that most people don't take into consideration. Because, example, if you would go into the bank and take out a business loan, what will you have to do? You have to pay back monthly payments with interest. Okay, the same rule should apply to the household. You've taken out a loan, albeit an interest-free loan, but you have to pay the household back. And here it's actually a very good idea for the household to go on a financial diet. People who know me and see my videos on YouTube or read my newsletter know that I never ever use the word diet. I usually say streamline expenses or making your money more efficient. This is because a diet is set for a certain period of time or until you reach a certain goal. For example, a diet cannot go on for indefinitely. If you need to lose 6 kilos, once you've lost those 6 kilos, you will introduce certain foods back into your eating regime. The main message here is that when I talk about a diet, it's to reach a goal or a certain period of time, but it cannot go on indefinitely. Okay, what we do is we then build a family budget according to the financial diet and learn how to prioritize expenses. Therefore, I do want to talk about my 4 expense formula. It goes something like this. We have vital expenses, a fixed amount like rent, mortgage, insurance, loans, savings, social payments. If you employ a childminder or a cleaner, for example. Now, these amounts can be predicted. These expenses have to be paid on time. One cannot negotiate the amount. And then we also have vital expenses, but we have, the difference is they have a fluctuating amount like food, electricity, water, bank commissions, petrol, medical expenses, and medical treatment. Now, these expenses also have to be paid on time. So when I'm doing a financial file deal with the family, these are the 2 types of expenses I take into consideration to see the minimum amount that the household requires. We also have expense number 3, which are essential expenses. They can be decreased or postponed. For example, dry food, clothing, shoes. Though if you have a teenager or little children, then this clause goes to the vital expenses. We have service charges, fines, presents. They have variable or fixed monthly amounts, but they can be decreased, postponed, and negotiated. For example, the educational fees do not have to be paid on the 1st of September. You can start payment from October or December, if it's applicable. And then the last one, the 4th one. We have non-essential expenses, not vital or essential, and therefore they can be decreased, postponed, or cancelled. For example, house renovations, country club, restaurants, outing, trips, and holidays abroad. Now, since you're doing the Easy Guide to Better Finances, I suggest that you listen to the 2nd module to reassess your expenses and make your own list for the 4 types of expenses. Okay, let's go back to the kid stage. At this stage, until we proceed to the teenager stage, it's still very a gray area since the business has to be financed and monitored. Here at the stage of the business, it's really important to have staff meetings between the household and the business at least once a month, if not more. Because if the business requires more investment, you need to decide where to take out the money from, whether you can do it from personal capital or have to take out a loan. If you do need to take out a loan, remember to shop around for the best offer. Or maybe the business does not need further influx of cash, but you might want to invest more money, for example, in marketing. And therefore, you decide that the family still needs to be on a financial diet. Okay, now if everything is going to plan, the household should be updated accordingly and introduce some of the items put aside back into the household budget. If the business requires more funding, and you don't want to use personal capital, they're fantastic places to receive business loans with great conditions, so really shop around. Now, if the case is the business is going according to plan, you might want to introduce some of the items from the 4 types of expenses that were excluded back into the budget. For example, you might want to buy some new clothes for that important corporate meetings. And this is a good time to buy one, but make sure you buy it on sale. At this stage, we know what is working, what type of clients we want to work with, and therefore we do need to revise our business plan. Again, it is imperative that the business reflects that it can generate an income, and it can generate the income that the household requires. If it means that, for example, to generate the income that is required by the household, you have to work in your business 24/6 from 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. This really isn't the business. It's not why you built your own business. You have to be really honest about the situation. And if it's not working or you're working too hard, sometimes it's better to jump ship when it's still afloat than to try to jump when it's sinking. Again, if you need professional help to put your business on the right track, then go ahead and seek it. It's amazing what they can do to help you push your business up another league. Now, before I go to the teenage stage, what I'd like to do, I'd like to bring you an excellent example of what fluctuating income. Here we are. Sorry about that. Okay. Here we see on this graph, we see what a fluctuating income looks. We have extreme highs in those. And this was a client of mine who is a dentist, and twice a year her income went into a slump. We can see it at Pesach, and we can see during the summer holidays. Therefore, during that time, she went to the bank and took out a loan. The bank was really pleased about this because they're a business and they want to make money. So the time she came to work with me, she had quite a number of loans. Now, another reason why I wanted to bring this example, and what is very interesting, is that her expenses, I can see, is the blue line, were quite stable. Because here are examples of what I normally encounter. When there is money, there is money. When there is, or when there isn't money, the expenses and income have no correlation whatsoever. Now, your expenses should be like hers. They should be stable. There should be a huge variance in the way you spend your money. So how did we approach the problem? Okay, first of all, I took into account the fluctuating income of the business and the expenses of the household. So we decided on a fixed salary to be transferred to the household, a fixed amount on a fixed day. The message here, there is no fluctuating income whatsoever for the household. The only place that has to deal with the fluctuating income is the business. This is our golden rule. That is why the household can remain financially stable when you're building a business. Okay, so we built a monthly budget accordingly. I mentored her for 5 months from April to August, and she was financially stable after 6 months. Also, it was the first year that she didn't have to take out a loan. She was really pleased about that. Though, when I was speaking to her, I felt that she was not maximizing her business or getting the most potential out of her expertise. So I recommended her to work with a business advisor that specializes in dentistry, which she did, and later on we shall see the results. Let's go to the teenage stage. We know the business is making money. Great, we're finally getting there. We have a work system implemented. We know how long a process takes or product to be sold. We know what type of clients we want to attract. We are hopefully working with a marketing or business advisor to make sure that we're staying on the straight and narrow, and therefore we are succeeding in our business. There are either monthly or quarterly meetings between the household and the home where both sides are updated on what's going on. The main reasons why I have decided to specialize in this field of a fluctuating income as a family financial advisor was that when analyzing my clientele, and writing my business plan, I discovered that nearly 50% of my clientele are self-employed, and this statistic is almost the same today. However, I have found there are a number of basic mistakes that people make when they have small businesses. Therefore, I have created some guidelines that should be followed so you avoid these mistakes. Because if you don't, it just complicates matters, and taking control of your finances become more difficult, and they are. You need to have a separate business and personal bank account. We know that in 2017, 90%, you heard right, of businesses that closed did not have separate accounts. Make your own conclusions. Pay business expenses from the business account. I have a client who has a separate business account. Yeah, but she pays her income, VAT and Bitur Leumi, for the personal account, which creates such a muddle because we don't know how much her business is costing her. Also, pay household expenses from the personal account. I know that some household bills, if you're working from home, if you go into the business, since it's recognized by the income tax. However, don't buy your children's shoes and pay from the business account. Keep everything as separate as possible so you have a very clear indication of what's going on. To pay the authorities on time for the business, that means VAT, Mas הכנסה, Bitur Leumi. Because if you don't, you'll be fined and pay exorbitant interest rates. However, some of you will say, well, that is the accountant's job. He should be doing it. He should be taking care of it. No, it isn't. It's your job to make sure that everything is paid on time. And you budgeting, you will find that if they didn't pay VAT, you have to phone up the accountant and ask why. Also, to pay the authorities on time for the household, that means arnona, electricity, water. Again, if you don't pay on time, you will be fined. You will have to pay the electricity board to be reconnected and pay also interest rates. If you don't have the cash flow, then tell the hairdresser, here's a check for next month, or the school, or the college. But my message is, don't mess with the big guys. Also, update the bank all the time. Create a working relationship with them by talking to them on a regular basis. I know nowadays that most banks, banking is done all on the internet or digital or on the phone. But if you have a branch, I do recommend to go in them and tell them what you're doing. Because if you feel that you might have problems in paying the mortgage for a couple of months, let them know ahead of time. Because if they find out without updating you, they're not going to be nice to you. I'm working with a family that everything came to a stop and they were literally on the verge of bankruptcy, okay? And I insisted they went to the bank every couple of days and update them what was going on. Since the business, actually the couple had an amazing ability to generate a very good income. In a matter of a couple of months, instead of the banks demanding that they repay their loans, they decided to give the couple a special loan of 120,000 shekels to help them ride the wave. Exactly. So the couple was saved from going under, and this is what a good bank can do for you. Also, a monthly review of the business and home budget. Now, I sometimes encounter families where there's a small business and have no idea how much the business generated last month or last quarter or 6 months, even the average income for the previous year. This is vital information. It's got to be at the edge of your fingertips. You have to know whether the business has generated the required household income and is covering your business expenses. Also, at all times, you have to know how much you're spending on the household, how much you're spending on each budget clause, and how much you have to last at the end of the month. This is basic information that you have to know. Okay, so let's see what happened to my client. This is a year later. She started working with a business advisor who suggested that she concentrates all her efforts in promoting her clinic. He recommended that she quit working in the other clinic as an employee. She wanted to guarantee a regular income while she was building her business and focus all her efforts in promoting her clinic. Okay, she also taught, the days that she taught, she rented out the clinic, and that also generated income. And she also had a specific speciality in sleep apnea. And she produced a newsletter she sent out to dentists around the area, and this produced a very good referrals, and she's generated more income to her business. Okay, as you can see, she still had a fluctuating income in the business, very much like the first slide, but she could deal with it. Okay, and all this happened due to the fact she was not managing her household finances, and she came to a family financial advisor. Now, the lecture has given you tips and guidelines so you can be successful in setting up your business and ensuring that the household is financially stable. Setting up a business or working with a business with a fluctuating income is extremely challenging. And it takes a certain skill to know how to juggle finances in order to be financially stable and successful. Because when the business really takes off and you've got a profit, it's such a fantastic feeling. The Easy Guide to Better Finances explains step by step how to build your own workable and realistic budget. However, if you're struggling to grasp the basic rudiments of dealing with a fluctuating income, please bring this up during a free meeting with me. Thank you.